like to ask chief designer of Aston Martin about new Aston Martin crossover.
Okay, so probably 5 doors, as you said.
Yes.
A bit bigger.
Yeah, I think
more space in the back.
We know, from the architecture that we have access to in terms of the fundamentals of where it needs to be. Wheelbase doesn't need to increase dramatically for the 5-door, but obviously roof line and the rear compartment for luggage is a very, very important part of what we'll be doing.
Okay. Are there clues in this car for DB9 replacement, advantage replacements, things like that?
I think part of what we're showing here is, if you like, the bookends in terms of our spectrum of products.
Okay.
From sports car in Vulcan and how that influences the next generation of sports cars.
Yeah.
So if you see Vulcan as we talk, there's no grille typically, there's no side graphic. And then if you look at
the front end.
and very low to the ground. Very low bonnet line. If you look at DB10 in the movie, that also does something very similar. And then the DBX really showing the next generation of our GT products. A little bit more genteel, more jewelry. It's if you like, more of the timeless approach, the timeless feeling. So that continuum of power, beauty, and soul. This being the beauty element, Vulcan being the power element. And then the two together give us that great feeling of power, beauty and soul.
What about the electric thing? Is that just to push the product, to give it as futuristic a feeling as possible? Is that realistic?
It's realistic. It's something we have to think about. We've got to think about future technologies. At the end of the day, there's an inevitability that emissions-free driving will be necessary in certain countries, in certain states, in certain cities around the world. So it is a technology that we have to look at and we have to focus on. It's, at some point, particularly for the customer we're talking about, then that may be a price of entry for that customer. Because they won't be the traditional petrol heads as we know, more switched on, more aware customer.
But presumably if it's going to be a global car, you'll need to offer excellent. What are these things in the? I'd just like to pick out just a couple of.
So this is obviously one of, when you're stationary, this is a solar trickle charger. So effectively it's running the ancillaries in the car when you're stationary. The markets that we have to think about, Middle East, certain areas of America, certain areas in China are incredibly hot places. One of the disadvantages of that is when you're parked and the car is switched off, you get solar loading on the inside. So the trickle charge solar panels here run the aircon free of charge, effectively, free of cost, effectively, while the car is stationary.
So you can just trickle the aircon.
We're already proving that technology on our Aston Martin Racing Vantage GT car.
So the Vantage GT runs a solar panel on the roof, which solely runs the aircon in the car for the driver.
They must be grateful for that, the drivers.
Well, at Bathurst, on the 12-hour race 2 or 3 weeks ago, cabin temperatures were at 65 degrees. So that's how hot it gets.
What about these? What you?
Again, floating pillars. The glass house sits underneath the pillar, and this is again our jewelry. It's solid aluminium here. It's a very, very thin micro layer of aluminium that's machined. Even the machining marks in there because it's the purity and the raw. Why cover up a beautiful material? And that floating element becomes our signature, and you can see that as potentially the next generation signature for our genteel GT cars. Over the next 5 years, you will see a new product every single year, and I mean totally new.
It's going to be crossover?
In the next 5 years, something new every year.
Marek, thank you very much. Good luck.